Do you feel stuck on like just repeat? Like you're in some sort of autopilot, and every single day feels like you have the same problems, but just, same problems as yesterday, but just different faces today. I mean, as a parent, as an entrepreneur, as someone who's working away, maybe in a 9-to-5 job, like I understand that you could find yourself in those type of cycles or in those types of loops. And so today what we want to talk about is how you can break free from those loops, the things that are actually keeping you from, breaking into that next level of who you could be, making a greater impact, creating more value for people around you, having better relationships, and living a more fulfilled life. Let's give you your agency back as a part of that. And so what I want to do is I want to dive into this concept, teach a little bit of it, and then I invite you to stick around a little bit longer, because in there I'll also have 4 very specific steps, these pattern interrupts that, things that break the loop and then help you to reclaim your life and start moving forward from there. Now, I know I've been there. I mean, as a parent, as an entrepreneur, someone who's been in that corporate sea of cubicles before, I get it, because I used to think I was stuck because my life wasn't changing, but the truth was, I was stuck because I wasn't changing. I kept praying for some sort of a breakthrough or something to happen, a new job or whatever, waiting for circumstances to shift. But every single day, it just felt like deja vu. It felt like I was on repeat again and again, the same problems, different faces. I was living the same day over and over again, just with new details. I mean, I don't know if you've seen that movie Groundhog Day, where he wakes up and experiences the same day over and over and over. That's how I felt. And the loop wasn't, what life was delivering me's fault. It was my fault. I was caught in invisible patterns I couldn't see because I was living inside of those patterns. The same thoughts whispering, and you may think this because you may be like, I don't know if that's me. If you've heard those thoughts of man, you're not enough. Or the same emotional spirals, that, the frustration that leads to withdrawal, guilt, more stress, and then back again. Overwhelm, anxiety, stress, it starts to loop again and again, all of these same feelings, so you try to grind harder instead of pausing, and gosh, what scared me the most, and I've heard this from a lot of parents and entrepreneurs, I didn't even know it was happening. And so you might need to do some reflection to determine, man, is that actually happening to me? The frustration feeling normal, the fatigue that just felt like it was inevitable is going to happen no matter what, in the sense that, you're moving but not going anywhere. The cost of being, this is just the cost of being responsible, right? But here's what changed. It changed a lot for me. I realized, and it took people calling me out on it almost, that the loop wasn't happening to me, it was happening through me, which meant I had the power to change it. Once that clicked, I shifted everything. See, up to 98% of our thoughts, this is what I've read through all sorts of studies, 90% of our thoughts that you have today are recycled from yesterday, which means you don't intentionally interrupt them. You're literally reliving the same inner experience, hoping for different outer results. But the breakthrough is you've got these gifts, your natural strengths, your superpowers. Those are how you break patterns. You're the only person with your combination of those gifts, superpowers, and the experiences you've gone through, which means you're the only person who can make the impact that you can make in people's lives right now, and people are waiting for that. I know that when you operate from those authentic strengths, instead of the learned survival habits that you've fallen into, you start creating new outcomes. So once again, this isn't about motivation or willpower, it's about alignment. And as we dive deep into this part, as we dive deeper into the 4 principles here in a bit, you'll see how that unpacks for you in your life. We have to see the patterns clearly. We have to interrupt them consciously. We have to start shifting who you believe yourself to be, because the moment you start identifying as someone who breaks those patterns, the loops lose their grip. I mean, you could be a parent who's stuck in the martyr loop, right? Sacrificing everything for your kids until you can feel completely drained. Maybe you snap when you've got nothing left, or you're feeling guilty, and then overcompensate by trying to do even more. Maybe you're that entrepreneur caught in the hustle and crash loop, working nonstop to prove your worth, burning out, crashing, and then proving at that point, pushing even harder, to prove something or to make up for it, or maybe you're the employee living the, waiting for that perfect moment loop, You overthink everything until opportunities pass you by. You promise, I'm going to act on the next one. I'm going to get the next one. But you end up freezing again and again and missing out on those opportunities. Whichever one of those you're living, the truth is, these loops aren't permanent. They're not happening to you. They're happening through you. And the moment that you see that, you can change them. And so we're going to dive deeper into these. Now, of course, I like to do this at the top of every video, and I forgot to. My name is Jake Talbert, and I'm the founder and author of this book called The GIVER Method. So welcome to the GIVER Method channel. So excited for you to be here, especially if you're new. If you're back for another video, welcome back. It's great to see you. But like I said, founder and author of this book called The GIVER Method. Everything we're going to talk about today is grounded in principles from this book. And right now, I put a link in the description because it is on sale on Amazon. You can get it for as little as $2, $2 to $10, I think, depending on if you want the digital or the physical. Get yourself a copy, because if you get this, you start putting these things into motion, you can break yourself out of that loop. You could show up as a totally different person by the holidays. You could have 2026 be one of the best years of your life. So whether it's for you or you buy a copy for someone you know, this book will change your life, helps you discover your gifts and superpowers, create more impact and influence, value for the people around you, better relationships, better engagements between people. Like I said, just living a more happy and fulfilled life, because you're inviting the universe to pay you back through the opportunities it has by giving and being there for other people. And so we're gonna dive deep into this one, though. These loops, the autopilot loop that people get into. That, I mean, I understand, like, everything in the book is meant for the entrepreneur, the parent, the person working 9 to 5, who can't just burn everything down and start from scratch. You can't just move to the woods to go find yourself, right? So it's meant to be action items, exercise. The stuff we'll cover later on as well falls into that bucket of, like, what can you do right now in the life you're already living without having to change everything? Let me tell you, just the day that someone helped me see my own loops, the triggers, the stories, the hidden payoffs, like, I realized I had the power to rewrite it, and I was able to start interrupting that. And that's exactly what we're diving in today. So these 4 areas we're going to focus on in a bit, like, they're going to help you break those loops. We're going to talk about, like, how you map the patterns so you can see what's really happening, how you catch yourself mid-loop so you can stop it, how you replace all of these survival mode behaviors with gift-based responses that fuel you, and then how you shift your identity from this I'm stuck to I'm a pattern breaker. I am the person with my gifts and superpowers who can go out there and make the impact that only I can make. Once again, it's not about being perfect or superhuman. It's just being aware and aligned and intentional. Because once you learn how to interrupt what's been running you, what's been putting you into that performance mode for so long, like, you stop reacting to life and you start directing it. And of course, like I said, if you want to go deeper, you can always grab the book. The link's in the description. Grab it on Amazon, or pause the video, go to Amazon, check out The GIVER Method by Jake Talbert. You can follow us on social media, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, all those places under the handle of The GIVER Method. You can go to thegivermethod.com for like free resources, our newsletter, ways we help people, things like that. If you need personal support, interrupting your patterns, discovering your gifts, then check out the link below. It talks about coaching. Might make sense for you to check out that page and maybe book a call. If you've got a podcast, you run a team, or you lead a community where this message, like, would resonate with them, you've got a stage, this event, whatever, then I'd love to help bring it to them in a way that works really, really well. Check out the link about speaking and podcasting down below. And of course, do all the YouTube things, hit subscribe, tap that bell for notifications, leave a comment of what's hitting for you as we go through everything. And so if that's all you're able to listen to, great, have a great day. I mean, the rest of this, though, please stick around, because we're going to keep covering these 4 principal areas. We're going to jump in and start breaking through the loops, and they've been keeping you stuck. Because the breakthrough doesn't start when life changes. It starts when you choose to do and you just start taking action. So the first area that we want to talk about, the first principle, is you have to see what's really running your day so that you can run it. So this is how you spot the loop and then map it fast. And so it's hard to break a pattern that you can't see. When you're inside that loop, like I said, I've been there before, so I understand. It feels like it's just your life. 1 minute you're gonna feel like you're fine, and the next one you're scrolling, you're snapping, you're sprinting, you're wondering how you even got here again. Nothing's wrong with you. Your brain just loves the familiar routes, and when they, even when they lead to nowhere and lead to this overwhelm and anxiety and stress. So this idea, this step, we want to pull ourselves out of autopilot. We're going to name what's starting the loop for us. The story, your mind is telling you, the emotion that floods in, the move you can make next, the fallout that keeps that cycle alive. Once you can see these things, you can steer out of it. And so we're going to dive through these things. If you give yourself, maybe 10 to 20 minutes to work on this, it will pay you back all week long, okay? So we're going to cover a couple different things. We're going to pick our repeats. We're going to look for those things. We're going to map them. We're going to then look at the patterns that are in there. And we're going to talk about why it's so important to do this. What it's actually going to do, because it impacts you on so many different levels. So the first thing is, you got to pick your repeats. If you start by just pulling out your note app on your phone or a piece of paper, and you're going to write down the 3 to 5 regular frustrations you have, and be really specific. My loops, my repeats are Sunday night, I dread going to work the next day. I snap at my kids with dinner. I lose an hour because I'm on Instagram just scrolling when I'm overwhelmed. Parents, entrepreneurs, employees, like whatever, like grab the ones that are in your heart. And what are the things that resonate with you where you're like, oh, I just find myself in these loops here. And then the second thing is like, let's map that loop out as like a timeline. And so we want to look at what was the trigger, the story, the emotion behind it, the behavior, what happens, and then what causes it to loop back. So the trigger would be like, what happened right before it started? It was the deadline. It was your spouse's request. It was a competitor one, a to-do list that's just yelling at you, whatever it is. Like, what's the trigger that puts you into that loop? Then second is the story. Like, what is your brain, like, what does it say? Man, I'm behind. I'm not enough. I'll never catch up. I'm too lazy. I'm a procrastinator. Whatever it is. Like, what's the story your brain's telling? Write it down. Don't judge it. Just write it. And then, like, the emotion. What landed? Is it anxiety, shame, resentment, exhaustion, whatever? Fill in the blank, whatever emotion that is. And then think about the behavior. Like, what did it cause you to do next? Did you withdraw? Did you pull out your phone and start scrolling? Did you just, like, overwork? Did you avoid it? Did you snap? What happened? And then, of course, we want to look at the consequence. What did you get short term? Was there like a relief or control by doing that, by taking, like, not doing the thing, not paying attention to it? But what does it cost long term? Is there guilt, burnout? Is there distance? Is there lost time? There's all sorts of things. And then the last thing, like I said, loop back. How does that cost, like, feed, like, the next trigger or prove that the same old story is true and that it comes back and hits you again? So once you've done that, okay, once you've actually had the chance to be like, okay, what are the things that I'm on repeat? Map out the timeline of what I go through. Now we can want to look for the patterns. So, this is where you want to underline it if you're on your phone, or circle it on a piece of paper. Like, hey, same story. What's the story showing up here? It's the same story showing up in all these places. Like, cool, that's the master script behind it. It's the same reaction across the triggers. Cool, that might be your go-to coping move. What payoff are you secretly chasing? Is it the temporary relief or feeling in control, avoiding vulnerability, whatever? Name it. Don't shame it. It's just data. Once you can point to the exact moment you flip the switch, like, man, the loop loses power. It's like, okay, I know what it is. It's here. Here's what's happening when that happens. I see it happening through me, and I can switch it. I can move it to the right tracks and get it back where we need to be. That's the first real win. From here, we're going to replace those reactions with gift-fueled responses that actually move you forward. And so that takes us in the second area, which is like how to stop the loop while you're living it. Okay? So this is how we catch it in the moment. So we already talked about, like, okay, we've noticed it. Now what do we need to do? Just knowing it, like, it isn't enough. Like, it's great that you know it, and that is the first step. But, like, you can understand them and journal them, all about them. You can even name them. You still find yourself halfway through the same cycle before you realize, like, it's happening. And it might sound like some of these might sound familiar to you, like you're mid-scroll wondering how you got there again. You're raising your voice and thinking, like, man, I promised myself I wouldn't do that. That's because awareness, like, after the fact, is reflection. Awareness during the moment, that's the power we're looking for. So this principle is about catching yourself in real time before the loop takes the wheel. It's learning to pause mid-spin and say, like, wait a second. I know, like, this is a pattern. This is something in my mental programming, and you need to create enough space to choose something different. That little tiny window is where the breakthrough really starts. And so here's what we're going to do. We're going to walk through a couple different things where, first off, we're going to talk about the loop check system, like how we actually catch it. We're going to watch for what your triggers are based on what we talked about before. We're going to talk about a 5-second reset, and then we're going to do some, like, more of that let's name it, not shame it sort of an idea. It's a big principle when it comes to these loops so that you don't fall back into the same cycle again. And so the loops, like the loop check system, hey, for the next, let's say 2 weeks, set random alarms on your phone, throughout the day, and call the alarm, like, loop check. And when it goes off, stop and ask yourself, like, 3 simple questions. What was I just thinking? What was I just feeling? And what was I about to do next? And write down what the answer is. Just on a note, whatever, like, man, I'm thinking I'm behind. I'm feeling anxious and about to check email again. Whatever it is, just write those things down. At the end of the week, read them back. Start seeing what, like, your mental playlist is doing throughout the day. The thoughts, feelings. We talked about 98% of your thoughts are recycled from the day before. Most people are shocked to find, like, how few original thoughts they actually had that day. Almost everything is a remix from the day before. So this builds the awareness muscle, catching the loop before it catches you. And then we go to the triggers we talked about earlier. So like pick one trigger that sets you off and make it a focus for the day. It could be seeing someone else's success. It could be your spouse's tone of voice. It could be that moment that you open your inbox, or you look at your task list, whatever. When it shows up, don't analyze it. Just say like, okay, there it is. I see it. The trigger, here it is. We found it. In one sentence, like, hey, you've just interrupted the unconscious loop by saying that thing. There's the trigger. There's the one. Here it is. I found it. I found it in my day. Like that awareness, it disrupts the loop so easily. If you write down every time that you do that, you're going to notice that it starts to pop up more often. You're going to realize you can see it coming way earlier than you thought. And then that's where you can be like, great, I found like I can catch my triggers faster. Now we can go to the third thing, which is this 5-second reset. When you feel the loop starting, pause for 5 seconds, okay? And there's a lot of people that can do different breathwork techniques, things like that. But what I want you to go through and do some of the following. Like the first thing would be, like I said, it's 5 seconds. So in the first couple seconds, like name that loop. Like, okay, is this trigger causing me to do this thing? And then for 2 seconds, just take a deep breath. And then ask yourself, like, if I were using my gifts right now, what would I do instead? Once again, you don't need a perfect answer. Just the pause is the pattern breaker. So, all right, I named it. What is it that's happening? Like, what would I be doing if I could use my gifts and superpowers here instead? Like, that breaks the pattern. That 5 seconds gives your brain a chance to switch from a survival mode to making a conscious choice. And then you go name it and don't shame it again. Anytime you catch a loop, name it out loud without judgment. Man, I'm in my checkout loop. Man, I'm in my running the hustle and crash pattern loop. I'm in my guilt spiral that just started. Whatever, like, but naming it, like, it creates distance. It's not you anymore, it's a pattern. It's the patterns lose power the moment that you can see them clearly, because the loops can't survive in the light. The moment that you say it, like, all right, there you are, I see you, here it is, here's the trigger, here's the thing, and what would I do instead? Man, that's where your choice lives. That's where the transformation really starts to take off, because when you build a habit of catching the loops, like when they're happening, you stop being dragged by that old wiring and programming you have in your brain. You start living with real choice and agency and fulfillment. You stop saying, like, why do I always do this, to saying, like, man, I see, and like I'm choosing differently. It's not willpower or motivation, craziness. It's just awareness, and the awareness helps rewire everything for you. And that takes us into the third area, which is like, okay, we've spotted it, we've named it, we find these ways to like break that pattern. And then now it's like, how do you stop fighting yourself and start like flowing with who you really are? So how do we replace the loop? How do we said earlier, like, what gift could I be using here instead? Well, now it's like, well, yeah, let's replace the loop with a gift. Let's get very focused on that, because people don't realize it. Like you can know every pattern you have. You can understand it. Like you can look at the psychology behind it and even like see it coming and still fall right back into it, because like it's not that you've done any of these steps wrong or you're weak or anything. It's just that your brain hates a vacuum. Like when you try to stop, like, I'm just going to stop this behavior without replacing it, like that old loop rushes back in. It doesn't like the void that you've created by just being like, hey, I stopped it. It doesn't like that. So it looks for something familiar. Okay. And the harder you fight it with like a willpower, the faster it drains your energy. And so let's stop fighting. Let's start channeling it, because like your natural gifts, your superpowers, the things you have, they are the real pattern breakers. When you like respond from who you really are, you don't have to force change. It just naturally happens. You're not trying to become someone you're not. You're just finally operating like yourself again. And so we're going to focus on a couple of areas in order to go do this. All right. So we're going to look at first, like the spotting the gift that you've been hiding. Like, what are some of those gifts that we want to pull out of there? How do we use that as a gift fueled alternative to what you've been doing? And we're going to notice how our energy shifts. And then we're going to talk about how to actually implement that, like without burning everything down, or like burning yourself out by trying to implement all these things at once. And so the first thing, like I said, spotting the gift that you've been hiding, because like the loops that we talked about earlier that you mapped out, what gift am I suppressing when I do this? When you're in that loop, like if you withdraw, you're probably burying the gift for your gift for connection or empathy. If you're grinding endlessly, you're blocking out your creativity and reflection. If you're stuck in a comparison mind frame, then you're silencing your gifts and your ability to encourage people. If you numb out, you're shutting down your presence and your ability to be authentic with your gifts and create value for the people around you. Once again, the loops aren't random. They're just distortions of your natural strengths. And when you in that survival mode, that your gifts, they get hijacked by the fear, by that survival instinct. And so what I want you to do is I want you to write this down, like, hey, when I run this pattern, I'm suppressing my gift for blank. Whichever pattern you talked about earlier, hey, when that happens, I'm suppressing this gift. And that sentence starts to change things for you, because now you can move to the second thing, which is creating the gift-fueled alternative. You design your new move. Every time that trigger hits, you're going to respond with one small action that channels your gift. Instead of withdrawing, you reach out to one person and just with genuine curiosity. Instead of grinding, you take 10 minutes to think creatively, to breathe. Instead of comparing, you send 3 encouraging messages to people you admire. You write out a gratitude list. And instead of numbing, you put down your phone. You give yourself 5 minutes of real presence. Just realizing what's going on around you. What do you hear, see, smell? Or like giving the presence to the person nearby you. The trick is to keep it small and specific. Like, be more present isn't a plan. Like, hey, I'm going to go have one undistracted conversation after dinner. Like, that's specific. That's something you can go do. And then that's where you're going to notice, like, start to try to notice the energy shift. Every moment that you check how you feel. Like, after the loop, I feel typically tired or guilty or disconnected, burnout, anxiety. Like, after this gift-based action, I feel lighter, more alive, more you, whatever it is. Write those down, and you're going to notice after a few weeks of doing that you start to see these gift-based actions are actually creating more energy for you. Loops are always going to drain it. And so the proof that alignment always beats willpower happens because of that energy. Like, when you see that energy come back from using your gifts and superpowers authentically in that sort of a way. And then, of course, like, think about how we then implement this. Like, the timeline of implementing this is like, you have to replace what you're doing gradually. You don't overhaul your life overnight. You pick one loop and you work on it for a week or 2 weeks. Once that feels more natural, you move to the next. By the end of, let's say, like 4 to 6 weeks, you've probably replaced the most draining patterns in your life with responses that actually feel like you. Once again, it's not about perfection, it's about progress that you can feel. I mean, think about it this way. We're coming up on the holidays. By the time we get to the holidays, you can be showing up as a totally different person. My gosh, think about it. Like, because when you try to fix yourself through willpower, like, it's never going to last because it's exhausting, it's draining you. But when you replace those survival habits with your gifts, these gift-fueled actions, you're not forcing anything, you're flowing from alignment. You break the loops because you're becoming someone else. Like, because you're being yourself, you're becoming more of yourself. That's when the energy comes back. That's when confidence returns. That's when real change actually sticks. Like, you're not here to fight your nature, you're here to free it. And that takes us into the fourth area that I wanted to cover, which is like how you stop seeing yourself as stuck and start owning who you really are. You have to shift your identity to becoming a pattern breaker. So shift your identity to the person who uses your gifts and superpowers to make impact. Because the truth that so many people will miss is, like, they have all the awareness and all the tools and all the strategies to get themselves, but they find themselves back in the loop again. Because, like, deep down, you still see yourself as the kind of person who gets stuck. You don't see yourself, you've told yourself that story so many times. Your brain is basically trying to prove it's true. You don't break the patterns while white-knuckling your behavior. You break them by shifting who you believe you are. And that's what this idea is all about. Like, you have to redefine your identity from that I'm stuck cycle to the I'm someone who sees it, I interrupt it, and I change things. Once again, it's not just hype or some sort of woo-woo. Like, we are literally rewiring our brains. And the moment that you start identifying yourself as the pattern breaker, as the person who is intentional, showing up authentic with my gifts and superpowers, your brain starts looking for the evidence that that's true. So what I want you to do for this is, like, I want you to, we're going to rewrite your story. Grab your notebook, write down like 3 to 5 things that you tell yourself when you're frustrated in that loop. I always get overwhelmed. I never finish what I start. I'm not wired for that. People won't believe me. I'm a fraud. I'm like, whatever. Now flip them, but don't make them fluffy. Make them believable. Something that you already are proving in small ways. Like, hey, I'm learning to notice overwhelm and respond with a little bit more calm. I'm someone who is building consistently through intentional actions. I'm growing my ability to pause before I react to things. Whatever yours are, like, these become statements, and then you just read them in the morning for 30 days. And when the loop starts, like, you just say, hey, what version of this, what version of me is going to be showing up right now? Which version do I want to be showing up? And then that's where you want to start to collect proof. Because your brain doesn't believe news stories automatically, it believes evidence. So you start keeping a running list of the proof I'm becoming this person, this pattern breaker, this more authentic version of myself. Every time you pause, you catch a loop, you choose something differently, write it down. Hey, I felt the urge to scroll and I took a walk instead. I started comparing and I chose to encourage instead. I paused before I snapped, I took a breath, and here's what happened. Once again, not about perfection, it's just about collecting the proof, because the more you document it, the harder your brain like is for your brain to keep pretending that nothing's changed. A really good exercise that I love to do is like you visualize your future you, because like if once a week you spend maybe 10 minutes imagining like your life 6 months from now, after you've broken out of these loops, think about like how do you carry yourself? How do you respond to stress? What words do you use to describe yourself? You know, how do people like interact with you? What are some of those outcomes you see? And really see it and ask like, what did that version of me stop believing to become that version? You know, that version becomes your compass. Start acting and living as that person today. And then you have to vote for your identity every single day, because the part that makes it real is every choice like is your identity vote. When you go to the default loop, you're voting for the I'm stuck, I'm burned out, I'm overwhelmed. But when you pause, you breathe, you choose differently, you're voting for the pattern breaker, for the more authentic version of you. You don't need you don't need to win every vote. You just need the majority of the votes, right? Because once you identify, you start identifying these things, you start shifting things, your habits automatically follow. You know, if you did this, like I said, I talked about a lot of these exercises for a few days, there's a couple weeks, you know, over the next like 4 to 6 weeks, like if you just like for 30 days tracked it, and watch how your votes have stacked up in your favor, you're going to start to notice something wild, like your default reactions change on their own, because your brain isn't trying to keep up with who you believe you are. It knows who you are now, what you have changed to, and it starts living on that programming. Your behavior change, like it won't change without identity change, because like if you don't have the identity change, it's always going to snap back. If you still think of yourself as someone who struggles, your brain will think of that way, especially if you ever say it out loud. The words we say out loud matter so much. When you start saying in your head and out loud, I'm someone who breaks patterns intentionally, I show up intentionally with my authentic gifts, I'm the person that wants to be this version of me in the future, everything starts to align with that truth. You stop trying to fix yourself and start just being the version of you that's already free. That's not pretending, it's practicing. You know, you get out of a performance mode and go into a living mode. That living mode is way more energizing than the performance one. You know, this is what turns the I'm trying to the I am that we're looking for. And so as we try to wrap this all up, bring it all together so that it all hits home. Like, you know, we uncovered a lot, like the loops that are keeping you stuck, they're not happening to you, they're happening through you, which means you've got the power to change them. The power has been in your hands this whole time. And it's nothing crazy we talked about. It's small, simple things you could go start doing day to day. There's nothing wrong with you. There's not laziness or broken or not motivated, whatever. You've just been living like inside of invisible patterns running you on autopilot that don't align to who you are. The moment you see them clearly, things shift. You can start showing up more authentically. You know, this work isn't about more discipline or better systems. It's just the awareness first. You notice the moments that your mind starts recycling the thoughts. Those same 98% mental loops we talked about. Keep replaying back and back that emotional soundtrack. Like, you just be like, hey, man, not this time. Because, like, the loops, they only have power when they're invisible. When you speak them into existence, when you shine light on them, you see them, you name them, you replace them with action, like, they lose their grip. You use your gifts, like, you show up way more better. Like, so that's the move. Don't overhaul everything. Just start with one thing. Maybe map out the loops in your week. Maybe set a few pattern awareness alarms. You know, look for the way you could use your gift-based, alternative. Read your breakthrough identity statements, whatever it is. You don't need to fix your entire life. You just need to interrupt the loop. Just start with one loop. That's where things start. Because breakthrough doesn't happen when life finally gets easier. It happens when you just stop running on repeat and start responding with the awareness, the alignment, and the authenticity. Every small act of awareness is that vote towards your freedom. Every pause, conscious breath, every time you choose to operate from your gifts instead of fear, you're rewiring your identity as that pattern breaker. Before you know it, you're going to look around and realize, man, something's really changed. I'm not repeating the same day every single time. I'm not living from survival. Like, I'm moving forward. I'm creating new outcomes, new energy, new peace. I have better connections with the people around me. That's what it means to break the loop. Now, if this topic resonates with you, then that's where use the link in the description to get yourself a copy of the GIVER method. I said it's on sale right now, $1.99 to $10, depending on which version you get. So use the link in the description. Go get yourself a copy. It'll change your life. I'm telling you, you can be a different person by the holidays and make 2026 one of the best years of your life. So use the link in the description for that. Check out thegivermethod.com for more details if you want to dive deeper into some of those other things. If you're wanting one-on-one support, someone in your corner, someone who's the guide that's walked that similar path to you, then check out the coaching link down below. Maybe it makes sense for us to look into that. Now, if you have that community, podcast, event, team, stage, whatever it looks like that this message would resonate with them, then let's partner together and talk about how we could bring it to them. Check out the speaking and podcasting link. And if this hits home, like the video, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, and drop a comment that hit home for you. Like, what hit home for you today? And then just remember this, you don't need any permission to change. You just need the awareness to begin. Like, those loops aren't who you are. They're just old scripts waiting to be rewritten. And the moment that you decide to stop running on repeat, you start writing this brand new story for yourself. Once again, you are the only person with your combination of gifts, superpowers, and experiences. And the moment you break out of these loops and start showing up to the people around you with those gifts, superpowers, and experiences, you'll realize you are the only person that can make that impact to those people around you's lives. They're waiting for you to wake up and break these loops and start to live more authentically from your gifts and superpowers. I promise you, when you do that, the universe always has a way of paying you back. It always does. And so hopefully there's been some stuff you've taken away from this video. You can check out the other videos on the channel, subscribe, like, all those sort of things, and hopefully we'll catch you in one of our future videos. Have a great rest of your day.